Welcome to my BCM 303 interview report. For this report, I had the opportunity to interview Jo Sterling and ask her about her favourite projects and advice on my second assignment.
Okay, would you please introduce yourself?
Neise, my name's Jo Sterling. You would know me as a lecturer in visual communication design, and I worked as a designer in the industry in all sorts of different capacities. So I've kind of been working as a design practitioner for, oh dear, coming up to 25 years.
Nice. So what do you create and how do you create it?
All sorts of things. We're in a more commercial or even working with non-for-profits or working community sector works of visual communication design that might be print-based media forms, them sorts of different types of digital media forms. So maybe, websites, web development, app development.
So you do a whole wide variety of
Yeah, well,
everything
design
graphic.
isn't really about necessarily the form. Design brief requires multiple things. So I might be working with a client or a project that it might be a branding project and a kind of illustration-based project that also extends to signage and wayfinding. So it's all part of a package sometimes. Yeah.
And what is a project you've done in the past that you're most proud of?
Most recent, a collaboration with my colleague Agnieszka Golda. We worked on an exhibition curation at Wollongong Art Gallery, and this was part of a big kind of global challenges project called Blue Futures. And so we collaborating together on the exhibition, but inside a much bigger collaboratory project that was with other disciplines that might be in the Indigenous knowledges space as well. So it was a really, really fabulous collaboration. And my role in that was as a creative, but also as a designer. So I actually produced works for that show, the exhibition, which was about coastal change and place and the watery places of the Illawarra. So most recently proud of, yeah, it's a great project.
How did you operate to communicate a message or feeling in this project?
I suppose as an exhibition that was community facing, we had to communicate what this show was about, which was about bringing attention to local kind of interpretations of value around water. Yeah, significant bodies of water, river systems, coastal edges, coastal places. A lot of the message was in text, but also very much image based. I've themed things around particular aspects of the coast.
Cool. And you said you worked with other people with that project. How did collaboration play into your ideation development and production process?
Collaboration was extremely important on this project so that multiple voices could be included. We wanted to bring the voices of the other researchers into the project and actually into the exhibition space. So we asked them to respond to our cabinet collections, writing or in image making themselves. And those stories were also put into the augmented reality and the catalogue that was online. So, and we also collaborated with Indigenous knowledges and inclusion and the right way to approach those clusterings of artwork. So we were putting colonial works with Indigenous works, and that's provocative and that's potentially problematic. So, of course, with permissions, we were encouraged to do that.
How did this collaboration inspire your creativity?
When you're working collaboratively, ideas come to you via other people in unexpected ways because of other people's perspective or worldview. To be working with, say, a scientist whose part of this research was about water quality, and just to have that kind of connection with other voices in a project like that really inspires the way you might develop not only the visual forms, but the kind of the context of a project like that.
So how would you address the creative brief of making kin in the Anthropocene?
So how would I approach this? I mean, actually, it's really interesting. The project we were just talking about was very much about that. Yeah. We were looking at water as kin, or is water intruder, or is water a resource for who and who owns it? Is it an unwelcome intruder when it floods and does damage? It was really interesting. So this project was about coastal change, and of course that includes all kin, I suppose, related kind of interconnected relationships in that context. I've always been interested in mapping and mapping practices as the visual language of maps. So I'm looking at the Shoalhaven River at the moment, and it's been dammed, and it's also had a big kind of cut at the entrance as well. And the consequence of that is quite significant change to all kin relating to that part of the river. So in terms of a creative project, I'm looking at that in a kind of mapping context, but what new types of maps can we make about place to understand connection and value? Kin in the Anthropocene, what would a creative project be? Well, currently that is my creative project.
No, that's brilliant. That's perfect. And with
Cool.
all that, with the project, what do you think you would value the most?
If you had a triangle that had good, fast, and cheap, and you can only pick two, the client is never going to pick, they're not going to not choose good. They want it to be good. They always want it to be good, but then it can't be fast and then it can't be cheap. We really have to reconsolidate how we think about making the things we make, because good can also mean sustainable, ethically appropriate, ethically right, also be aesthetically awesome. Yeah.
For my key findings, Jo bringing up the fact that design isn't about the form was really insightful, that the most important part isn't the form but what you're trying to communicate. She also mentioned the triangle of having a project being good, timely, and cheap, and having to balance those elements as you will never get them all. This thinking will be helpful in the next project to be able to focus on two and understand the important factors we are trying to achieve. Finally, it was super interesting hearing about her project as it is closely linked to our project for assessment 2. Learning about the collaboration between community and the designers and the connection between land and kin was very interesting.